Imagine being a teenage mom, kicked out by your parents with nothing but your baby in your arms. What would you do? Discover how one young woman found hope in the most unexpected place and how her life changed forever because of it. This is a story of survival, friendship, and the power of never giving up. But before we start this story, please take a moment to support us by liking this video, subscribe to our channel, and tell us where you're watching from. It was a cold winter evening when Amber Green stood outside the doors of her family home, tears streaking down her face. At just 17, she had never expected this. Her parents telling her to leave, a suitcase in her hand, and her newborn son, Noah, bundled tightly in her arms. "You've embarrassed us, Amber," her mother had said, her voice cold and final. "You can't live here anymore. We've made our decision." Amber's father hadn't said a word. He just nodded silently, his face a mask of indifference. The door had slammed shut behind her, and she was left on the steps of her own home, a young mother with nowhere to go. She looked down at little Noah, his eyes wide and uncomprehending. What was she supposed to do now? She had no job, no money, and no support. The streets felt impossibly vast, the harsh cold creeping through her jacket as she hugged Noah closer. Her thoughts raced. She couldn't just stand there. She needed to figure something out. She started walking, the rhythmic crunch of her boots in the snow, the only sound in the silent night. Amber had always been a fighter, but this felt different. This felt like the hardest thing she had ever done. Amber wandered for hours, avoiding the busy streets, not wanting to risk running into anyone she knew. Her eyes blurred with tears as she thought about how everything had gone wrong. Her dreams of finishing school, becoming something more than just the girl from a small town, seemed impossible now. With nowhere else to turn, she eventually found herself in front of a small coffee shop on the corner of Maple Street. She hadn't realized how late it was until she saw the lights inside flickering. The shop was nearly empty, save for an older woman sitting in the back corner by the window, a soft orange glow lighting up her wrinkled face. She looked up as Amber walked in, and their eyes met for a brief moment before Amber looked away, embarrassed by her disheveled appearance. The woman smiled warmly, as if she had been expecting Amber. "Come in, dear," she called. "Don't stand out in the cold." Amber hesitated, but the warmth from inside was irresistible. She stepped inside, cradling Noah closer to her chest. "Are you all right, sweetheart?" the woman asked, her voice gentle and kind. Amber shook her head, unable to hold back the tears. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. "I've been kicked out. I have nowhere to go." The woman's eyes softened, and she stood up from her seat, her movements surprisingly swift for someone of her age. "Well, I certainly can't let you leave like this," she said with a firm tone. "Come sit with me for a while." Amber hesitated but then walked over to the table. "I'm not sure what to do," she said again, sitting down across from the elderly woman. "I think I can help," the woman said with a twinkle in her eye. "But first, tell me your name, dear." Amber Green," she replied softly. "Well, Amber, my name is Myrtle Collins, and you've just stumbled into a place that might be exactly what you need." Myrtle leaned in, as if sharing a secret. "I know things about taking chances, and I think it's time for you to take one." Myrtle Collins' words hung in the air like an invitation to something unknown, yet promising. Amber's mind raced, still too overwhelmed to process the enormity of her situation. Her eyes darted to Noah, who had fallen asleep in her arms, his tiny chest rising and falling rhythmically. "You seem like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, Amber," Myrtle said kindly, "but sometimes the world can surprise you when you least expect it." Amber met Myrtle's gaze, unsure of how to respond. The woman was old, well into her 70s by the looks of it, but her eyes were sharp, as though they had seen more than most people would in a lifetime. There was something about her presence that felt oddly reassuring. Myrtle wasn't like the cold faces of her parents or the distant, judgmental gazes of her classmates. She was different. Amber hadn't realized how hungry she was until Myrtle stood up and bustled into the back of the coffee shop. The small bell above the door jingled as customers entered and exited, but Amber remained in her seat, unable to shake the exhaustion that had crept into her bones. When Myrtle returned, she had a steaming cup of cocoa in one hand and a warm plate of what looked like homemade sandwiches in the other. "Here," Myrtle said, setting them in front of Amber. "You'll feel better after you eat. You've been through quite an ordeal." "Thank you," Amber muttered, but her stomach nodded at the thought of food. She hadn't eaten much since yesterday, and the last time she'd had a proper meal felt like a distant memory. She picked up the sandwich and took a hesitant bite, the warm, buttery bread comforting her as it melted in her mouth. The cocoa was just as sweet, and the heat from the drink seemed to slowly bring her back to life. For the first time in what felt like forever, Amber could breathe again. Myrtle sat across from her, watching her carefully. "You've got a lot of questions. I can see it in your eyes. I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers, Amber, but I do know one thing. You're capable of more than you think. You're strong, even if you don't know it yet." Amber stared at her, puzzled. "How do you know that? You don't even know me." Myrtle smiled, the corners of her eyes crinkling. "I know because I've been where you are. I was once a young woman with dreams and no direction, just like you. And I ended up finding my way against all odds. Now it's your turn." Amber's heart skipped a beat. "But how? I've got nothing. I've lost everything." The elderly woman leaned forward slightly. "Maybe it's not about what you've lost, Amber, but what you still have left. You have that baby boy, and that's something special. You have the courage to keep going, even when things get tough. You have your youth, your energy, and most importantly, you have the ability to change your story. It's not over yet, not by a long shot." Amber wiped her eyes, feeling the weight of Myrtle's words. It was true, she had nothing left except for Noah. And as much as she feared the unknown, as much as she longed for things to go back to normal, there was a small part of her that felt the flicker of hope igniting. Could she really start over? Myrtle's voice interrupted her thoughts. "I'm not going to let you just drift, Amber. I've been doing this for years, and I know where you can go to start fresh. I'll help you get on your feet." Amber's mind was spinning. "But I don't even know where to start." "You don't have to," Myrtle said with a smile. "That's why I'm here." The warmth of Myrtle's kindness settled over Amber like a comforting blanket, and for the first time in days she felt as though there might be a way forward. Myrtle had been more than generous with her food, but it wasn't just the cocoa and sandwiches that were filling Amber's heart. It was the belief the elderly woman seemed to have in her. Amber wasn't sure how to process it, but she felt something shifting inside her. After Amber finished the last bite of her sandwich, Myrtle cleared the table, her movements brisk but graceful. "Come on now, I'll take you to your new home." Amber blinked, confused. "New home?" she echoed. Myrtle nodded, her smile never fading. "I've got a little house just outside of town. It's not much, but it's a safe place, and it's just what you need. You can stay there until you get back on your feet." Amber couldn't believe her ears. I don't know what to say. "You don't even know me, Myrtle. Why are you helping me like this?" Myrtle's gaze softened. "You remind me of myself when I was younger. A lot of young women need help, but few are brave enough to ask for it. You took a step today that not many people would have the courage to take. I admire that." Amber's throat tightened with emotion. She had been abandoned, rejected, and yet here was this stranger, this kind, eccentric woman, offering her a second chance. The gravity of the situation finally settled in. "I don't know how to thank you," Amber whispered. "You don't need to thank me, dear. Just take the opportunity and make something of it," Myrtle said with an understanding nod. "Come on, let's get you and Noah settled in. You've got a lot of work ahead of you, but you're not alone anymore." The drive to Myrtle's house wasn't long, just a few miles outside of town, but it felt like a journey into a different world. Amber couldn't stop thinking about what Myrtle had said. Could she really build a new life for herself and Noah? The thought seemed impossible one moment and exhilarating the next. When they arrived, Amber was taken aback by the sight of Myrtle's home. It was a small, charming cottage nestled at the edge of a quiet forest, surrounded by a garden of wildflowers and overgrown ivy. It was peaceful, serene, nothing like the cold, crowded apartment complex she had grown up in. The air here felt different, lighter. It was as if time moved slower. Myrtle opened the front door and motioned for Amber to come inside. The interior was cozy and warm, with soft lights and worn wooden floors that creaked underfoot. It smelled of lavender and fresh herbs. Amber felt as though she had stepped into a different era, a place where people were kind to one another, where strangers became family. "Make yourself at home, Amber," Myrtle said, setting down a basket of blankets on the couch. "This is your home now, too. You're not a guest. You're a part of this." Amber's chest tightened with emotion. She set Noah down gently in a small crib Myrtle had prepared and sat down on the couch, feeling the weight of her situation press upon her. There was still so much to figure out. How would she get a job? How would she make sure Noah had everything he needed? Myrtle seemed to read her thoughts. "Start small. Don't try to solve everything at once. You'll take it one day at a time. And if you need help, I'm always here. This is a place of safety for you and Noah. And that's all that matters for now." Amber nodded, feeling a small sense of relief. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. Myrtle had given her something precious, hope. She knew it wouldn't be easy, and she still had a long way to go. But for the first time in a long while, Amber felt like she could take the next step. As night fell and the stars began to twinkle in the sky outside, Amber settled into her new home with Noah beside her. She had no idea what the future held, but one thing was certain: she wasn't alone anymore. The following days felt like a blur for Amber. Myrtle was true to her word, providing a steady foundation for Amber to begin rebuilding her life. The cottage was a peaceful haven, but Amber knew she couldn't stay there forever without finding a way to support herself and Noah. She needed a job. Amber spent the next few mornings scouring the local classifieds for work. Myrtle had helped her make a resume, though Amber felt self-conscious about her lack of formal experience. After all, she had been focused on school and raising Noah, never imagining she'd have to work full-time so soon. "Start with what you know," Myrtle had advised. "You've got skills, Amber. You've been taking care of that little boy since he was born. That's a job in itself." Amber had never looked at it that way before. She had been focused on all the things she didn't know, what she couldn't do. But Myrtle's words made her realize that caring for Noah, running a household, and keeping a routine were all valuable skills. She had a lot to offer, even if she hadn't seen it herself. One morning, Amber saw a listing for a part-time position as a cashier at the local grocery store. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. She gathered all her courage and called the number listed, hoping for the best. The voice on the other end was cheerful. "Hi, this is Sarah from Maple Grove Market. How can I help you?" Amber hesitated for a moment, her nerves making her throat tighten. "Hi, my name is Amber Green. I saw the ad for the cashier position, and I was wondering if it's still available." "Absolutely. We're always looking for good help. Can you come in tomorrow for an interview?" The relief that washed over Amber was instant. She'd gotten her foot in the door. The next day, she put on the best outfit she could manage. Nothing fancy, but clean and neat. Myrtle had helped her pick it out. As Amber stood in front of the mirror, she tried to calm her racing thoughts. She had no experience, no college degree, and no family to back her up. But she had determination. That had to count for something. The interview went smoothly, though Amber could feel the weight of her nerves throughout. Sarah, the store manager, was kind but direct. "I see you're a young mom," Sarah said as she glanced at Amber's resume. "I respect that. It takes a lot of responsibility." Amber nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude. For once, someone wasn't judging her for being a teen mom. They were recognizing her strength. "We're willing to train," Sarah continued. "As long as you show up and work hard, we can make this work. Do you think you're up for it?" Amber's heart skipped a beat. "Yes, absolutely, I'm ready." A few minutes later, Sarah shook her hand and smiled. "Welcome aboard, Amber. You start Monday." When Amber got back to the cottage, she couldn't contain her excitement. She burst through the door, holding up the offer letter like a victory flag. "I got the job, Myrtle," she exclaimed. "I start on Monday." Myrtle beamed with pride, her hands resting on her hips. "I knew you would. You've got the fire in you, Amber." As Amber sat down to catch her breath, Noah gurgled from his crib, and she smiled down at him. This job wasn't a solution to everything, but it was the first step. It was a chance to build something stable for her son, a chance to show him that even when life knocks you down, You can rise again. Myrtle patted her hand gently. It's just the beginning. Keep moving forward one step at a time. Amber nodded. She had a long road ahead of her, but for the first time in a long while, she felt hopeful. She wasn't sure where this new path would lead, but it was hers to walk, and she wouldn't be walking alone. Amber hardly slept the night before her first day at the grocery store. The excitement that had kept her awake last night now churned in her stomach with nerves. She was determined to make a good impression, but the thought of meeting her new co-workers, learning a new job, and managing her responsibilities as a mother at the same time made her anxious. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she couldn't handle it all? Myrtle noticed Amber's unease as she prepared breakfast in the morning. She smiled softly, setting a plate of eggs and toast in front of Amber. First days are always the hardest, sweetheart, she said gently, but you've got this. You've already proven you can handle more than most people. Don't forget that. Amber gave her a weak smile and nodded, trying to steady her nerves. She hadn't realized how much Myrtle's belief in her meant until now. It was like a lifeline, something to hold on to when everything felt uncertain. With Noah fed and settled in his playpen for the moment, Amber quickly dressed in the uniform Sarah had given her, black slacks, a simple white shirt, and an apron with the store logo on it. She glanced at herself in the mirror, still feeling a bit out of place. But then she thought about Noah and the little family they were building here. This job was a chance to give him a better life. That was all the motivation she needed. When she arrived at the store, Amber was greeted by Sarah, who led her to the staff break room to meet the rest of the team. Most of the employees were friendly and welcoming, but Amber could sense their curiosity. They were older, more experienced, and she couldn't help but feel a little out of her depth. "Don't worry," Sarah assured her when she saw the look of hesitation on Amber's face. "You'll fit right in. We'll take it slow, teach you the ropes." The first few hours were a blur of scanning groceries, checking out customers, and learning the register. Amber had never worked in retail before, and while she picked up the basics quickly, it was exhausting. By lunchtime, her feet ached, and she was mentally drained. But there was something empowering about it. She was doing it. She was earning a living. During her break, she called Myrtle to check in. "How's Noah?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "Don't worry about him," Myrtle replied with a chuckle. "He's napping right now, and I've got everything under control. You just focus on your work. You're doing great, Amber." Amber smiled to herself, comforted by Myrtle's reassurance. She was doing this. She was holding it together. The afternoon passed in a blur of customers, registers beeping, and the endless shuffle of shopping carts. By the time Amber clocked out for the day, she was exhausted. But there was a sense of pride in her steps as she walked back to her car. When she got home, she found Noah wide awake, his big eyes watching her as she entered the cottage. Myrtle was sitting with him, bouncing him gently on her knee. "How was your first day?" Myrtle asked with a knowing smile. Amber sank onto the couch, rubbing her sore feet. "It was hard," she admitted, "but I did it. I really did it." Myrtle nodded, her eyes twinkling. "Of course you did. It's not easy starting over, but you've got the strength to do it, and this is just the beginning." Amber looked at Noah, his innocent face so full of trust. "I'm doing this for him," she whispered to herself more than to Myrtle. "You're doing it for both of you," Myrtle corrected softly, "and you're not alone. We're a team now. You've got me, and you've got Noah. Together, we'll make it through." Amber smiled, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time in a long time, she truly felt like she was on the right path. There would be obstacles ahead, but she wasn't facing them alone. As she rocked Noah gently to sleep that night, Amber whispered to him, "We've got this, buddy. Together, we've got this." Amber's second week at the store was a steady improvement over her first. She was growing more comfortable with the cash register, learning the routine, and even starting to get to know her coworkers. Sarah had assigned her to the evening shift, which suited Amber well, giving her plenty of time during the day to care for Noah and make sure he was settled before she left. But just as Amber started to feel like things were getting easier, life threw another curveball. One evening, as she was finishing up her shift, Sarah approached her with a serious look on her face. "Amber, can I talk to you for a moment?" Sarah asked, her tone businesslike. Amber's stomach clenched. "Sure, what's going on?" We've had some staffing issues, Sarah said, rubbing her temples. We've been a little short-handed, and I've been asked to adjust some of the shifts. We need you to start working full-time.
The words hit Amber like a ton of bricks. Full-time? She hadn't been expecting that. She had been trying to juggle everything as it was, and the thought of working more hours made her feel like she was drowning. I don't know if I can do that, Amber replied, her voice shaky. I've got Noah to take care of, and Myrtle's been helping, but... Sarah gave her an apologetic look. I understand, Amber, and I hate to ask this of you, but we really need the help. We're struggling to stay afloat, and we're really counting on you. We'd be willing to give you more shifts, but I need you to commit to full-time hours. Otherwise, we might have to let you go. Amber's mind raced. She had come so far, and the last thing she wanted was to lose this job. But how could she work full-time and still be there for Noah? She couldn't bear the thought of him being without her. I need to talk to Myrtle about this, Amber said quietly. I'll let you know by tomorrow. When Amber got home that night, her nerves were on edge. She found Myrtle sitting at the kitchen table, sipping tea and reading a book. Myrtle, we need to talk, Amber said, sitting down across from her. Myrtle's eyes immediately softened as she put down her book. What's wrong, dear? It's the job, Amber began, her voice trembling. They're asking me to go full-time. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can be away from Noah that much. Myrtle leaned back in her chair, thoughtfully tapping her fingers on the table. You've got a tough decision to make, Amber. It's a big commitment. I can't afford to lose this job, Amber admitted, but I also can't afford to lose Noah. I don't want him to grow up without me, like I did. Myrtle gave a small, understanding nod. It's a hard thing, being a mom and trying to build a life, but sometimes you have to make sacrifices. Amber swallowed hard. I don't want to sacrifice my time with Noah. I've already missed so much with him. But if I don't take this opportunity, I don't know what else I'll do. Myrtle reached across the table, placing a hand over Amber's. You don't have to do this alone. I'm here for you. I'll help with Noah, so you can take the hours you need. You can keep working on your goals, and I'll support you however I can. Amber looked at her, overwhelmed with gratitude. But you're already doing so much for me. I don't want to take advantage. Myrtle smiled warmly. You're not taking advantage, Amber. You're trying to build a future, and I want to be a part of that. You've come this far, and I know you can do more. This is a chance to take care of yourself and Noah. Both of you deserve it. Tears welled in Amber's eyes as she squeezed Myrtle's hand. Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'll never have to find out, Myrtle said softly. We'll make it work, together. The next day, Amber returned to the store, her resolve firm. She had made her decision. It wouldn't be easy, but she was going to take the full-time position. She knew Myrtle would be there to help with Noah, and for the first time since she had become a mother, Amber felt like she wasn't alone in this fight. When she told Sarah, the manager smiled. I'm glad to hear that, Amber. We really need you. I'll do my best, Amber promised. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Myrtle's support, she was ready to take on whatever came her way. The next few months flew by in a blur of busy days and long hours. Amber worked hard, adjusting to her new full-time position at the grocery store. Every morning, she kissed Noah goodbye and left him in Myrtle's capable hands. The first few weeks were tough. She had to learn how to balance her job and motherhood, and there were days when she felt like she couldn't keep up. But with Myrtle's unwavering support and her own determination, Amber began to find her rhythm. Each paycheck was a small victory. Amber could see the difference it made in their lives. There was food in the fridge, a roof over their heads, and the promise of a future that didn't feel so uncertain. Amber could finally start to believe that things were changing for the better. And then one day, as she returned home from work, Amber found a letter waiting for her. It was an envelope with the logo of a local college printed on it, and her heart skipped a beat. She tore it open quickly, her hands trembling slightly as she read the words. Dear Amber Green, We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted into the adult education program for the upcoming semester. Your application has been approved and we look forward to seeing you in class. Sincerely, the admissions office. Amber felt a surge of emotion as she read the letter again. She had applied to the program on a whim, unsure if she was ready to take the next step. But here it was, an opportunity to continue her education, to create even more possibilities for herself and Noah. Myrtle appeared from the kitchen, her face lighting up when she saw Amber holding the letter. "What's that? What's going on, honey?" Amber could hardly contain her excitement. "Myrtle, I got in. I'm accepted into the college program. I can finally finish my education, just like I've always wanted." Myrtle's face lit up with pride. "Oh, Amber, that's wonderful. You've earned it. I always knew you were capable of so much more." Amber felt the weight of the moment settle in. It wasn't just a letter, it was a doorway to everything she had dreamed of. But this time, she wasn't dreaming alone. Myrtle, Noah, and Amber were in this together. They had all made sacrifices, and now they were seeing the fruits of their labor. That night, as Amber rocked Noah to sleep, she looked at his face, so peaceful, so trusting. She knew the road ahead would be challenging. There would still be struggles, late nights, and moments of doubt. But she had something that she hadn't had before: hope. "I'm doing this for you, Noah," she whispered, her heart full. "I'm going to give you a life better than I ever had. You're going to have everything you deserve, and it all starts now." Amber's first day of school came quicker than she expected. With Myrtle's help, she was able to make the necessary arrangements for Noah, and though it wasn't easy juggling a full-time job, school, and motherhood, Amber was determined. Every day felt like an accomplishment. It wasn't long before Amber realized something important. She was stronger than she ever gave herself credit for. She had started out so unsure of herself, but now, with every class she attended, every shift she worked, and every moment she spent with Noah, she felt more confident. She was creating a life for herself that wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving. And Myrtle? Myrtle became more than just a helpful friend. She became a part of Amber's family, a source of constant encouragement and love. The older woman's words had proven true. We're a team. Together, they had built something special. One evening, after Amber had returned home from class, Myrtle handed her a gift, an old family photo album. Amber opened it, smiling at the faded pictures of Myrtle's younger years. But what caught her eye was a note tucked inside the album. The note read, "To my dear Amber, who is already the woman I always knew she could be. You are family, and I couldn't be prouder of you. Love, Myrtle." Amber's heart swelled as she held the note in her hands. She looked at Myrtle, who was watching her with a soft smile. "Thank you," Amber whispered, feeling the weight of the words. "You've given me so much more than just a place to stay. You've given me a future." Myrtle's eyes glistened with emotion. "You've earned it, Amber. I'm just glad to be here to see you soar." As Amber held Noah in her arms that night, rocking him gently to sleep, she knew one thing for sure. Her journey was just beginning. There would be challenges, but she was ready. She was no longer the scared, uncertain girl who had been kicked out of her parents' house. She was a mother, a worker, a student, and most of all, she was a woman who knew her worth. And with Myrtle by her side, Amber knew she could face whatever came her way. The future was bright, and it was hers to create. Amber's journey from uncertainty to empowerment is a powerful reminder that with determination, support, and the courage to pursue your dreams, anything is possible. Through hard work, love, and resilience, she built a future for herself and her son that was once just a hope. With Myrtle's support and her own perseverance, Amber proved that no matter how tough life gets, a better future is always within reach. If you were inspired by Amber's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting stories. And remember, no matter where you are in life, it's never too late to take that first step toward your dreams. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.